Hey there, welcome back to another installment of the Donovan Stargell Show. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to like and subscribe. And we're going to talk today about what is going on with the impending Trump administration. We're hearing some backlash about some immigration policies. We'll get into that. We'll briefly cover what CJ Stroud has said about his performance on Wednesday for the Christmas game against the Ravens. And then we'll quickly touch on some of what's going on in the entertainment space when it comes to Squid Game. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So we have already some riffraff that's going back and forth about what to do with the impending Trump administration when it comes to immigration. And what we'll see here in just a second to get a clip from a CNN reporter as they talk about what is being said within the MAGA camp and what's coming down the pike from some of the top advisors, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, here's what I'm excited about with all of this. One is that the man hasn't taken office yet, and we're already cycling through what's going to be coming down and what changes are going to be made in this country. And that's exciting because we know that it's going to be real, it's going to be palpable, and it's going to be swift. And so they're already talking about, and trying to draw out lines of division. We'll kind of see some folks that have spoken out. I want to say Ann Coulter has released a tweet and some other folks that are amongst the MAGA crowd. Now, what I want y'all to key in on and what we're going to break down and do some analytics is what this reporter is saying. Now, I don't know if she misspoke, but I'll stop the tape here and kind of jump in whenever I feel the need. But we did already see some of the mainstream media trying to put a spin on this. First and foremost, you saw in one of my previous videos, I was talking about, and what I think the greater MAGA collective is most interested in would be the what's happening with illegal immigration and not so much focused on the tensions and all of the what can be done when it comes to legal immigration. We're talking about open borders, people coming across the border. We don't know who they are. They're not enrolled in school. They're not of a high skill set. We're not talking about, and you're going to see here when they're mentioning these H-1 visas, these folks that are getting issued H-1 visas typically aren't primarily skilled in manual labor, flipping burgers, bagging groceries, mopping floors. That's typically not who we're talking about. We're talking about high tech. We're talking about a lot of skills that unfortunately in this country aren't of primary conversation. We hear a lot more about drag queens reading to elementary schools more so than we do about uplifting. And this is kind of echoing the sentiment of Vivek, uplifting kids that are learning things that are math and science related in this new tech heavy society that we live in that's constantly growing. We're not hearing a ton about how we're getting children from early elementary school age to be primarily focused on careers and STEM and technology more so than we are hearing about how these kids are being spent on the government's dime, on the taxpayers' dollars to learn about things that really just don't crowd the space when it comes to putting someone into a position to be successful, to be a productive citizen in an ever-changing society. Gender and sexuality really doesn't have much to do when it comes to talking about creating a culture of success in product design, engineering, robotics, leaving out the what a child's gender is isn't going to derail. If we left that out, it wouldn't derail. And if we focus more on what I just said, engineering, product design, and development of software, if we don't talk about gender and sexuality, that's not going to derail a child from being successful when if we're saying that we're going to focus more heavily on that. And that's not what we're seeing. That's not what's been produced from previous generations, and now we're feeling the brunt of that as well. And to go along with it, we can talk about some of the trades. We can talk about carpentry and why we've taken out skill sets like woodworking and auto mechanics from the schools, and how we're feeling the brunt of that as well, and how some folks are lobbying for us to continue with illegal immigration policies so that we can fill that void. We need to fill that void here at home as well, and we can do that in the public school system also. And of course, like what Vivek is going to say or what you're going to hear in this clip, is that we're not filling the void of these high-skilled tech opportunities. And what I want to speak to here real quick, and you'll see this in the clip as well, when we're talking about bringing in folks that are in these countries, probably where they're coming from, a lot of India and other countries, probably like South Asia, right, that are having people in these countries that are learning these skill sets coming from an environment where they're not being able to get compensated as well as they would here in the United States, and trying to call these individuals indentured servants because they're, I'm sure working a ton, but at the same time, if they would be working the same amount in their country or not working at all because the demand for them to be working isn't there, calling them indentured servants, I think, is a slight at least or at minimum. So real quick, without further ado, I want to pop over here, share my screen, and let you get a glimpse of this CNN report.
As President-elect Donald Trump is preparing for a widespread immigration crackdown when he takes office 25 days from now, we're seeing a crack between some of his top advisors and his MAGA base. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are both facing major blowback from their own supporters for not only backing, but encouraging offering more visas to highly skilled foreign workers. Over the Christmas holiday, Musk posted this online saying, "Think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be." He later added, "I'm referring to bringing in, via legal immigration, the top 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning." He's talking about H-1B visas, which allow employers to hire highly skilled foreign workers. Musk, who himself is from South Africa, said that he once had this kind of visa, and he's arguing that Silicon Valley is facing a shortage of excellent engineering talent, as he put it. But the annual cap on those kinds of visas right now is at $65,000, with another $20,000 for those who get a master's or a doctorate in the U.S. Musk is being backed up by his partner in Trump's government efficiency initiative, Vivek Ramaswamy. He says it's a cultural issue that there aren't more competitive engineers in the U.S. Here's what he said online: "A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers." But that argument is not going over well with Trump's MAGA base, certainly not online. Some of them saying, "We did not ask them to engineer an immigration policy. Tech wants indentured servants, not high-skilled workers. You don't even know what MAGA immigration policy is." Now, Trump himself, who I should note restricted H-1B visas in his first term, has said on the campaign trail this time around that he did want to make it easier for educated foreigners to work in the U.S.
What I want to do and what I will do is, you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically, as part of your diploma, a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges, too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country.
All right, so some feedback there. Ultimately, I have to really feel compelled to believe a couple of things. One is that, of course, Elon, Vivek, both guys that are tech heavy, building massive companies that need skilled workers, certainly feel compelled to lean in on this for, let's just call it, personal reasons, all right, which I understand. Now, at the same time, in the best interest of our country, developing software, technology. I think that all helps. Again, a high tide raises all boats. And so having the best players like Elon was saying, and then also in a culture where we're not developing the top talent as a culture where we're not uplifting, again, math Olympiads to echo Vivek, we need to look at that and at the same time not hamstring those that are coming here with good intentions to be able to help develop our country, our technology, and our infrastructure, and make all of us successful by being able to provide us as end users the best. Now, we'll say again, we want to not overshadow the opportunity for us in our internal education system to create top talent so that we don't need to outsource. I think both of those need to be a very thoughtful dance that we do, or we can walk right and chew gum at the same time, is what I'm trying to say. So we need to have that dance where we're doing both. We're trying to, make sure that we're going in the right direction as a country, bringing in the top resources, and at the same time looking internally to develop the next generation to produce that top talent that we know is going to be needed moving forward, so that we don't have to so heavily lean on bringing in external recruits, if you will. So what Trump was saying, if I were to give some feedback, I know a lot of people just kind of, especially Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, just lean heavily in on what he's saying. And, I think he's a great leader and he's going to do fantastic things. I voted for the guy twice now. We'll say that we have to kind of be careful on just saying if you got a doctorate or if you have, a diploma, you get your degree in this country that you get an automatic. Well, I think we should definitely look at some of that being the education piece, looking at the conduct as well, and certainly doing some things to make sure that intentions are there and that other checkpoints are met outside of just getting a degree. Why do I say that? Let's think about some of what we've seen on college campuses where there's, let's just call them to the carpet, the pro-Hamasers, right? Folks that are threatening violence against Jewish students. That type of behavior, I don't care what degree you have. If you're someone that's out stoking violence and causing disruptions where you're interfering with others that are on campus getting education, I don't care if you finish up, that should be very much looked at. Types of behaviors like that, you're committing crimes. I think President Trump would rock with me on that. And I don't think that he was saying you get a degree, you get to stay no matter what. I don't think that's what he was saying. And so I don't want to look like I'm just taking those words and running too far down the field with it. I'm right there with him, though. If you're here, you're doing good. You're putting yourself in a better place. You're showing that you're going to put this country in a better place by going out and being a productive citizen in an ever-changing society. That should certainly be a step towards you cementing a legacy and some security for yourself as a citizen in our country, for sure. So moving on, that's real quick on politics. Hopefully we didn't stay there too long. We're going to do a lot of politics on this show. We're going to do a lot of different things on this show. We haven't even cracked the surface on what we're going to be about around here. We're making it up on the fly at the same time. So we got some space. Anyways, and I don't think anybody's here more than like 8 people. So we good. We're rocking with it. Anyways, we're going to switch gears. Moving over to the Texans. I got my gear on. I can't hardly take my gear off because I was born and raised in 77449. I've been a Texan before the Texans even existed, before Cal was even a twinkling in his daddy's eye. That's probably not true. That guy's a lot older than me. Anyways, I think you get what I'm saying. Ultimately, CJ went out, did his thing, didn't do it well. He didn't get hurt. That's a plus. That's a huge plus. Let's not take anything off the board there. He played a game to where he stayed injury-free, stayed healthy. I think he took some big hits here and there that, didn't look great. Nonetheless, I feel like those 3 days didn't give the young gun and the Texans enough time to really turn it around and produce like they could have. And then, of course, that big injury. Now, some folks that I was actually at the game, some folks that I was sitting around was saying that ever since that Tank Dell injury, that he hasn't looked the same. And apparently, they have a really strong relationship. One of my colleagues or one of my really good friends was telling me that Tank Dell was actually being recruited by CJ once they, pulled the ripcord and we got CJ and we got Will Anderson in the first round, that CJ was on the horn, letting it be known that if there was a weapon that they could bring on to the Texans, he would certainly be thrilled to be throwing the ball to Tank Dell, and that actually came to fruition. And so those guys have been working very closely. Apparently, we know that Tank Dell went down last season with the leg injury, and now this new injury doesn't look great. We have Diggs that's out for the rest of the season, and Nico's coming back, knocking some of the rust off. Looks great, but we can't just rely on one target. We need Schultz to come through for sure. Some areas of opportunity there. All in all, what I'm trying to get to is that even with the healthy Joe Mixon, with those receivers that are out, going into the playoffs looks tough. We might be cooked. At the same time, do want to kind of give you some feedback from what CJ said. And I love it here. I feel like this guy took ownership. He said people are entitled to their opinions and they care about the game. Their emotions matter. So I understand. This is not my first time and probably won't be my last. This is something to internalize. And this is not something to internalize and point the finger at yourself, but it is something that you can use to motivate you to not want those moments anymore. I got plenty of football left in my career, hopefully, God willing, and I know this is going to be a story I'll tell one day that helps me in the long run. It's part of life. You hit a lot of valleys and you have a lot of mountaintops. It's a cliche, but there's not sunny days if there aren't days with rain. So this is a rainy day, but at the end of the day, the sun will rise up tomorrow and we have another crack at this next week and keep rolling. So very well said. Ultimately, he's taking ownership, saying that there's going to be tough times that you experience. This guy's growing in his second year, doing very well. Hopefully we can see him turn the corner and bounce back, pick up a dub, be able to kind of go into the postseason with some momentum and some good spirits. So the Texans went into the Christmas Day game with a chance to move into a tie with the Ravens for the number 3 seed in the AFC, but instead lost the chance to pass them and will be locked into the number 4 seed for the playoffs. So all in all, I think we might be cooked in the playoffs to begin with. So at the end of the day, having a turn for the better, make some good offseason decisions to be able to pick up some more weapons for CJ to get the ball out to, I think is going to be the focus. Right now, I'm sure those guys are focused on doing their best with what they have. As a fan, I'm going into the postseason optimistic as possible, even though what I just said sounded a little pessimistic, probably a little more realistic. I think there's going to be some really great teams that we're going to face off: the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens. So there's talent amongst a field of really great players that I think we're going to be just outnumbered by. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. They're looking fantastic. We'll see what happens. Go Texans nonetheless. I'm going to be tuned in to, the next game that's coming up. I'm going to say on Sunday. I could be wrong. But at the same time, I'm always tuned into my Texans. Love them. That's why we got to cover them here on the Donovan Stargell Show. Now, moving on really quickly before we get out of here, Squid Game. Big Squid Game guy. Not a guy that's really about a lot of violence in my content. At the same time, I do like a good action movie, shoot 'em up, bang, bang. And also, I do like a good melodrama. I'm a film student from the University of Texas. finished in 2010 with my Bachelor's of Science in RTF. And so my first undergraduate classes, we talked heavily about, storyline, and we actually really focused in on one of my classes, my second division classes, on melodrama. And so I'm really big on drama. And Squid Game has both. Loved the first season. Actually just rewatched the first season this past week. Finished it up last night because I remember a lot of what was happening, but some of the end of the storyline, and I knew that they're going to have to relaunch a second season, that I wanted to kind of see how they did that. And it was very well done, as I remember. And so just saw a headline from the New York Post, and I know the second season just came out a couple of days ago. I haven't watched it yet. Actually, probably gonna, get some more laundry done for the rest of the evening and tune in. But I did see some back and forth on folks kind of being a little not excited about what they saw in the red light, green light episode for season 2. And so we'll see, and I will give you some more analysis. Right now, big Squid Game guy, or big Squid Game fan, and enjoy the series on the first season. We'll see if they're going to be able to make it to the third, if this one isn't a dud. All right, well, thanks for joining me, and I will certainly look forward to seeing you on the next one. Y'all take care. Bye for now.